The international break is in full swing, and today we mix it up. We give you, the viewer, the chance to pick the podcast episode. We asked the question on our Instagram page, and you answered. So we have gone ahead with England and the Nations League debate. That's what we're talking today. Let's roll that intro. Hello and welcome to the Lost in Possession podcast. If you're here for the first time, hit that subscribe button. Give us a follow on Instagram while you're there. And the reason to do that, as I said in the start of this video, is today we have mixed it up. Today we asked the question on our Instagram page, what do you want us to talk about? What do you want the podcast topic to be on? And you guys answered. So shout out to Joel, shout out to Jay Morgan. He chose, why do the English hate the Nations League? It's useful for lesser ranked teams. So today, that is the debate. So I think the best place to start is probably, do the English actually hate the Nations League? Jamie, we'll come to you first. Do you hate the Nations League?
Yes, but I'm very much anti-international football. Definitely club over country kind of person. So absolutely, I'm one of the people who dislike it. It's another tournament to add more games on that takes away from club football. So to me, I'm one of the people in the hate Nations League sort of section.
All right, Reese, what about you? Where do you sit?
I like it. I do like it. I think it gives, at least it's, look, we have to go through friendlies, with international friendlies, whether we like it or not. And at least it gives something or a bit of a reason to them, and gives you a reason to stay competitive during the friendlies, I think. And I think that's one of the most important things. But I do see the arguments that it's perhaps just another way of lining, the governing bodies to line their pockets. So, but I like it. I've got no qualms about it.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't mind it. I don't mind the principle of it. I think as England fans, we can't be picky. Like we're like the Spurs in the Premier League, right? You've not won a trophy for X amount of years. You want to win anything you can. Sorry to dig out Spurs there already, but we've not won a trophy. We know how long it's been. We don't need reminding. And ultimately, the Nations League is an opportunity for a trophy. Like, it's as simple as that. And I think for me as well, in terms of the sort of four arguments, obviously we'll get into it a bit more. The four case for the Nations League is who won the first one? I think it was France. Like, already who wins it gives the competition integrity. The fact that only the people who can win it are the ones in Group A or Group 1, whatever you call it, that gives it integrity, because it's only going to be the best teams who can actually win the Nations League, and therefore it becomes a bit more prestigious. Now, do we think it is the same as the World Cup and the Euros? I think it's fair to say it's not. But let's be fair, we'd still be having beers, we'd still be celebrating in the streets if England won it. So I think any international trophy is a big deal for me. So that's why I prefer it. Now, touching on the injury side, Jamie, I know you'd rather not see City players play, if that makes sense. If they win it and not get injured, I know it's hard to say in hindsight, but would your opinion change then slightly?
Well, really, it's sort of like when the Euros comes on, when the World Cup comes on, I'm an England fan. There's no club football. I'm an England fan. I'm watching. So I'll cheer on England, but otherwise I don't want any City player injured. And if they win it, it's well done, but I'm not, overjoyed by it. It's sort of like I'm not too bothered, if that makes sense. So that's how I kind of would go about it. It's, you support your team that you're like. I support the country, so I'll support England. So then I'll care about England and care about the games, but I will also have in the back of my mind, if I see touch wood and all this, like Phil Foden get his leg broken, I'm going to be absolutely pissed. Like much more so than if I saw, like I said, touch wood, don't wish this on anyone, say Saka. I'm going to be much more bothered for that reason, but I'm also going to be sort of like bothered for one for England and then two for club. Whereas, like I said, with Saka, for the example, we bothered for England, then I'm not fussed. But then if I see, I think sort of like if you had the final where it's France versus Argentina, there was no City players in France, and there was a player for Argentina with Alvarez. I actually didn't. I wanted Argentina to win, but it wasn't even for Alvarez. I wanted it for Messi. So to me, it didn't really affect how I felt about it. It was nice to see him do well, but it doesn't affect me like it does for club football or if England lost, for example. I'd be more annoyed with England losing than, let's say, there's one City player in the England team and like four for France, and France knocks us out. I'm not happy then. I'm disappointed for England.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think where I disagree is like I, as long as they don't get injured, which obviously is it's all hindsight, but I like to see the players at the club do well internationally. One, because it's just good. It's nice to see the players you support do well, but also like for their career, prime example, let's say the England in the Euros final, obviously we lost, but imagine what it does for those players and those careers, their confidence, their everything for that England side. I know it's England because we support it, but let's say Alvarez, right? That has done a lot for Alvarez's career already, and we can debate it, but everyone now refers to him as a World Cup winner. He's been sensational since that, and he's becoming
Well,
a breakout star. I know it sounds bad when he's won a World Cup, but
you can argue that he has this season, but he was a bit more than a bit part player that last year. But in our first 11, he wasn't in it, and we won the treble. So it's sort of like he's people were saying like he's completed football because he's won that and it, but he wasn't integral to that treble winning side. He was a part of it, a good part of it, but yeah, I still don't think that really matters. I think when they go back to the end of their career, they're going to be like, wow, like what a career. But for me personally, I couldn't care less about him having a World Cup statue in his front room. It doesn't affect me. Argentina winning it doesn't actually affect me. Like I said, I wanted Messi to win it, but that like now, if he lost, I still wouldn't have been that bothered. I'd have gotten over it pretty quickly. Where if you go with City losing to Chelsea in the Champions League final, I still don't like hearing that. We've
yeah,
won it since. I still don't like hearing it. There's a complete difference of association I have it. So that's where I'm not that fussed about City players doing well in the international scene. It's nice, but I'd rather them be fit for
yeah,
City. Get back, then they can have a longer pre-season with City, or a little more of a rest with City, and be focused for us in the season.
yeah. I think where I'd agree is like the international friendlies. I think that's where I would kind of agree with you. I'm not that bothered if the players are playing in friendlies, but I think when it's competitive, I like to see him, and also call ups. Like a good example for us, is like Colwell getting called up to England, getting his debut. Like, I'm happy for him. Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Although it was a friendly, I don't know. I just like to see that personally. Reese, where do you stand on this?
Um, I think like you said, like injuries are inevitable anyway. I think you could argue that does the Nations League just add more games to that calendar, more stress, more pressure? Yes, yes, it does. But like I said, the goal is if you're not going to have competitive games, how are you ever going to improve? You're just kicking the ball around and having a jolly up. Just do that at the park. So yes, friendlies are important to maintain fitness and that aspect. But I think we need a little bit more competition. I think if England as a nation wants to improve as a football club, I think, or as a football team, I think it's a good idea to have something like a Nations League. Yes, injuries will happen, but we've got so much depth and a bigger squad than ever. You can call those players up. Yes, you believe club over country, of course. You do have those longer affiliations, but it is what it is. Like, your player can get injured any time. He can get injured in training during the week. He could get injured picking up his remote control from the living room floor. It can happen at any time. So it's not like to me that it's a big deal. So I am still okay with it. I think it's about being sensible with management, isn't it? If the player is being called up and they're clearly not fit,
Yeah,
just don't play them. Like, come on now, like, don't be silly.
we
But
do
that
see
still
a lot
that
of it.
happens as well, doesn't it? We've got Stones hasn't played for us all season. He played maybe 15 minutes against Arsenal on the weekend. He's now in the England squad. Saka, I don't know if he's actually continued with the England squad. I haven't kept up to date with that, but he was out for the City game, which is one of your biggest games of the season, and then he's with the England squad, and you're like, hold on here, something's not like. All Arsenal fans will be like, well, don't play Saka then, otherwise he's going to get injured. So I think everyone does have that bias in that way. Like you'll have some people who don't care, who don't support our clubs, if that makes sense. If you got people who go to the England games and they support. Just trying to think of a random team. Let's say I don't know Plymouth. They support Plymouth. None of them players are in the England squad, so they want the best England team out and players in because they've got no. They don't care about the rest. So that's where it is all individual. But I do want to say with the Nations League, I do agree it's much better than friendlies because friendlies seem even more annoying to people who are club over country. Um, I do. I think we should probably mention what was said in the Instagram comment for the lesser teams and how I think it's actually really good for them. I do actually think for the lesser countries it really is because if you look at the groups for the Euros and for the World Cups, you'll see the same teams at the bottom of this playoff group, like San Marino. I can't think of any other neat team, Gibraltar, things like that. They're getting pumped every single game, losing 5-6-0, and it's a moral victory if they lose 3-0 or score a goal. Utterly pointless games. They are like friendlies. But when they get to play each other in these sort of tournaments, it does do them quite good. Like to be honest, still San Marino are well from the last Group D. They did lose all 4 games and didn't score a single goal, but they did before. They did. I think they got a draw before, and that was great for them.
Mm.
So it saves them from being battered every game.
Yeah.
But does it? Like I know it's a bit harsh because it probably does to them, but for most other people who want to see the good, like they want to see good quality football, no one really cares. There's less money in that part of it. Seeing San Marino play Liechtenstein and teams like that, where you might get a draw, but
Well, they can get promoted. That's what we've got to remember. So they've got something now relatively to strive for because they can get promoted in
yeah, I
theory.
do think they're still in the same mindset of if we score a goal, it's good.
Yeah, step by
But,
step.
it's still better than when they've played England several times. No, you know the result. You just think of how many they're going to score. So it does work for lesser teams. I personally don't really care about it, but for them that will be better for them and their confidence, and quite nice for them not to be just absolutely battered for 90 minutes. So I do see it from that point of view as
Yeah.
well.
I think as well, one thing I was going to say, and we sort of learnt this yesterday with Norway. So the Nations League is important. I'm not going to call Norway a lesser team because that sounds harsh, but they're, in terms of Euro qualifiers, out, right? And we again, follow us on Instagram. Perfect time to plug that. But we obviously put out yesterday on our story, no Haaland, no Odegaard at the Euros. And then quickly we found out that actually, and again, this is part of our point of this debate because not many people knew this, but actually now there's a chance that Norway can still qualify for the Euros through the Nations League playoffs. So we can play down the importance of it all we like, but it's so important for the rankings and everything else that Norway could now qualify for the Euros. Haaland, potentially one of the best strikers in the world, could qualify for the Euros because of the Nations League. So I think if that's ever an argument to sort of reiterate its importance, particularly on Joel's point of the so-called lesser teams, I think that's your argument there.
Well, yeah, Norway are one of the lesser teams. They've never qualified for a competition, so they've not for the Euros or the World Cup. So it is, yeah,
It is a good idea, isn't it? You want to have an incentive. So what it does is I think it helps allow other teams get the chance to qualify, or if you're a big club that's messed up, you've got a backup plan, right? So the more that the bigger teams disregard the Nations League, the more chance the other teams have a chance. So it is a good idea. I mean, if you look at Group A, even at the moment, or Group One, it was Croatia, Denmark, France, and Austria. Now, two of those you'd expect to qualify for pretty much all the tournaments. The other two have a chance. No Germany there, there's no Italy there, there's no. Do you know what I mean? It's a good opportunity to actually get that chance to qualify that you don't normally get. And I think if it's a World Cup, you get privilege status or something in the qualifying, so you get an easier group or a smaller group, or so it's there if you want it. I think that is a good idea to encourage teams to actually give it a go. And I think you could argue, yeah, that if you just let them qualify straight up, then what's the point?
Yeah.
That the fact that they get to have another chance is a motivator.
I think that's a really good point on the seedings, because I was doing a bit more research into that, and I think, again, the hardcore fans can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe England's poor performance in the Nations League, and we'll get onto England in a minute, but I believe that our poor performance in the Nations League impacted our seeding for the Euros qualifiers. So obviously in the Euros qualifiers, which is this week again, England Italy, big game. We've got Italy and Ukraine in our group, which are two relatively tough teams, and I believe the seeding of that was due to our performance in the Nations League, which again reiterates the point. For England, luckily, it's looking like we're going to qualify, but that could impact us not getting to the Euros or the World Cup. So
Yeah,
they've designed it in a way that we have to sort of support it in a way.
yeah, and it should be a reason to give you a kick up the backside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Realistically, who are England to disregard the Nations League? They haven't won anything since '66.
Mm.
And they're lucky. Yes, their group is a little bit harder, but they're lucky to be in a group with a team like Italy that's still under a transition or a hangover from its Euro win. This was the England team of 10 years ago. It might have found it a bit of a trouble, So yeah, it is a good thing, and it should tell big teams, look, if you do rubbish here, your group is going to be harder, because I think the last thing you want is to have two teams similar to your ability or could easily beat you. You lose to them twice, that could put you 6 points behind them in the group, which is what you don't want. So it is a good idea.
Just on that, just quickly. So obviously we're talking Nations League today, but there is a huge game tomorrow, England versus Italy in the Euros qualifiers. We will be doing a preview separately on TikTok. So if you're not already following us, make sure you are following us on TikTok. But Italy now are in a position where if we beat them tomorrow, they are 6 points behind us and would be level on points with Ukraine with 2 games to play. So we're in a position where, again, because of the Nations League, in theory, the seeding, Italy could, again, touch wood and all that, could not qualify for the Euros through the qualifiers. Same with Ukraine. Like, one of those could potentially not qualify because of how the seeding's played out. So it's actually crazy when you think about it, how important it is.
yeah, yeah. You don't like it's sort of obviously Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup. Big shock. So things like that could damage it. Okay, that was a different matter, but that's things that could happen. Like you say, they might not qualify for the Euros, being the holders. Like, it's quite unusual. But I think we also probably need to talk about England's performance in the Nations League. Now, before I do that, I just want to say the 3 winners of it were Portugal in 2019, France in 21, and Spain in 23. Now, all 3 of these have won a Euros or a World Cup, or both, in fairly recent history. So it's not something that everyone should just disregard because now it's happened. Like, you can discuss whether you wanted it or not, but Southgate, it's another time for him to actually go, right, we should be able to try and win this, or we should be amongst it. But then we've played 6 in the last one. We played 6, won none, drawn 3. We had Hungary in the group, who came second. They did very well, but we should be beating Hungary. We should be. Well, to be honest, all three of them, Germany, aren't in the great. Well, they've had to sack their manager because he wasn't doing very well. Italy, we're beating them now, but we didn't in the Nations League, and Hungary as well. Like, it's not an easy group for a Nations League group, but to win none is dreadful. So I think you've got to take it seriously because, like we're saying, this could stop us getting in the Euros, could stop us getting the World Cup, and that'll be a dull bloody summer for us. Like, as much as I don't like internationals, I will go and watch the World Cup. I will watch the Euros, but I prefer England to be in it, so I have someone to support. So, yeah, it's worrying that we did lose or didn't win any of the games, and now we're going to be in League B or standing the second tier because we've been relegated from it.
Yeah, we now can't win the Nations League.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got to go another year essentially to get out of Group B.
And we're talking about how good, sort of like with people have been saying how good we are.
Yeah.
How can we can't be that good if we're not amongst it? Like people are saying for the Euros, we should be aiming to win it, and we can't even win the Nations League is appalling.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, the 4-0 to Hungary is just ridiculous. Like,
well, this
absolutely
is it.
ridiculous.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like, you want to win everything that's available to you. And what Southgate, the fact that you feel like he's disregarding it. Who is he to disregard it? What's he won as a manager? He's won nothing.
Yeah.
At least have something, have a springboard to be like, look, you've got a taste of it now. Go to the next level. I get a bit annoyed when they only focus on one tournament, one trophy, and it's like, okay, you won it, but you failed everything else. I'd rather see a consistent.
Is that you mean more clubs who ignore the FA Cup and or the Carabao Cup?
Like, I think as long as you Pep wins every trophy, right? Or
yeah, he aims for every
Mourinho
trophy.
won every trophy, and then you get like other.
We've seen Spurs in recent years. I'm not going to say this year because they did get knocked out, but it wasn't as bad as previous seasons where they've played a lower league team and got knocked out.
Yeah.
But they've disregarded cups. They've gone, oh, we don't want to win the Carabao Cup. Why? Yeah. You've not won anything. So I know we've mentioned Spurs a few times, but this could happen to other clubs as well, like Everton, Villa. To be fair, Villa have taken it seriously. They've got to a final in recent years. But I'm just mentioning clubs around that haven't won something for a bit and then not taking it seriously. Like, look at West Ham winning the Conference League. Spurs disregarded it when they first got into it. You win a trophy because you're in it. You didn't want to be in that position, but you're in it, so go and win it. And that's what England and Southgate should have done. Should do. I don't think they don't play not to win. Don't get me wrong, but that's just simply not good enough to be at a team that's meant to be one of the favourites for a tournament Euros, and then not.
Yeah, and I think. Southgate should go for it because I look at it and I think, look, fair enough. If you don't win the Euros or the World Cup, you can say, well, at least we've won 2 Nations Leagues, right? Just an example. Of course, that puts pressure on you saying, but you couldn't do the big stuff. But it's like, well, at least he's got something. At least he set some foundation, and it shows that okay, we can achieve something. Treating it just like yesterday's newspaper wrapping. It's just not. I don't think it's fair, and I think it's disrespectful on the other nations there. And we were taught a lesson. Against the likes of Hungary. So there you go.
Well, there you have it. That just about wraps us up for another episode. As I said at the start of the show, obviously this is the first time we've ever done this. If you did like the episode, please make sure to hit the like button, share with your mates, and give us a follow as well. We do want to do more of this. We do want to engage with our audience, engage with our community, and ultimately let you guys have a say. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.